is on the linear and nonlinear functions. We're looking at the character of those functions. There are 6 of them that we're going to study. I'm going to name the function, you draw it, and then we'll look up to make sure we have it right. Because it's important that we know the name and what it looks like. Alright, so the first function is linear. Draw a linear function. If you drew a positive line or a negative line, you are correct. This is a linear function. Each one of these we're going to talk about the parent function and we're going to transform it. A linear function, the parent function is y equals x. This is the parent function. If we transform the function, we may have something like y equals 2x minus 3. Now the function has been transformed. We're going to compare the graphs, the inputs and outputs of each one of these after we finish. Alright, the next one is quadratic. Draw a quadratic function. Quadratic function is a U-shaped graph. And the U in quadratic tells us the shape of the graph. The parent for the quadratic is y equals x squared. We can transform it to be something like y equals 1/2 x squared minus 6. Now, the U in quadratic tells us the shape of the graph. The next function that I want you to draw is the absolute value function. The absolute value function has a V. And so we use the V in absolute value to help us remember the shape of the graph. The parent function is y equals the absolute value of x. A transform function could be y equals negative absolute value of x plus 3. After the absolute value function, we're going to do the square root function. Draw a square root function. The square root function, the symbol of a square root, helps me remember the shape of the square root function. It kind of starts at the origin and heads off into the positive direction, positive infinity. So this is square root function. Y equals the square root of x. Yes. So the square root function is shaped like so. This is the parent, and of course we can always transform it to be something silly. Alright. The next function is the cube root function. It is squiggly. Here we go. Cube root may look something like that. It is written as y equals x cubed. That's the parent function, okay? And then the last one that we're going to look at is exponential. The E in exponential helps me see the shape of the graph. Exponential functions are used to show exponential growth and decay. And when something grows rapidly, it may start off like that and then increase. Or if it decays, it may go like so. So the little curve in the E gives us what an exponential looks like. And the parent function for it is y equals, let's say, e to the x. Alright, now we're going to go to Desmos and we are going to compare some of these functions. So I'm going over to Desmos graphing calculator now. And I'm going to clear out everything that I have. You go over to Desmos graphing calculator as well. And let's compare some functions. Alright, so I'm going to write it down first because the words can be tricky. Alright, so here's how the problems are worded. And we're going to do 3 of these together, okay? Give me 1 second. Alright, so problem number 1. We are going to compare the parent linear function f of x equals x to g of x equals x plus 3, where g of -1 and f of -1 are compared. Blah, 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 blah. Something like that. Alright, and we need to decide if which of these 3 is true. Is f of -1 greater than g of -1? Is f of -1 less than g of -1? Or is f of -1 equal to g of -1? I think we need to understand what happens on this function. The parent function has a positive slope, and when x is y, y is x. So 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. The first line has a positive slope. The second line intersects the y-axis at positive 3 and also has the same slope. So it's the same shape, but it shifted up. So we're going to compare what happens at -1 when x is -1. We go over to Desmos and we're going to type in both of those functions. The first one is y equals x. The second one is y equals x plus 3. Now, once you get those functions typed in, you come up here to the settings and you click table, go to the second equation, click table, and remember we are comparing the functions at -1. So I'm looking at when x is -1 right here, y is -1, and when x is -1 right here, y is 2. Also, you can come over to the table of values and you see x is -1. Here's the second function, you get 2. And there's the first function, you get -1. So for the first function, at -1 is -1. And at the second function is 2. So f of -1 is, and g of -1 is, I forgot just that fast. Let me go back over here. Alright, f of -1 is -1. And f of g of -1 is 2. So I wrote that down. This number is higher. And since that number is higher, g of -1 is greater. So this answer is B. Alright, so here are your steps to compare functions. Step 1, go ahead and put them in Desmos graphing calculator. Once you put them in Desmos graphing calculator, you're going to press the settings button to look at the table. And then step 3, you are going to compare each function at the value. Okay, we're going to do 2 more. And we'll go through them together. Alright, now we're going to look at the quadratics. We're going to compare the quadratic parent to h of x equals x squared minus 6 at f of 3 and h of 3. And we want to know, is f of x greater than h of x? Is f of x less than? Okay, so is f of x less than h of x, or is f of x equal to h of x? Give you a minute to write that down. And then we're going to go over to Desmos graphing calculator, clear out what we have, and we're looking at the parent function for x squared quadratic and y equals x squared minus 6. Alright, press the settings, put the table, press the settings again, put the table. If it was a case that you couldn't see the graph, you can zoom and pan. Alright, the value that we're looking at is at 3. And 3 is not listed on this table. So we come over to the table, type in 3, come into the table, type in 3. Alright, on the first function, at 3 we get 9. On the second function, at 3 we get 3. Alright, so f of 3 is 9 and h of 3 is, I think I said 3. Let me check that. X squared, so 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 6 is 3, yes. And then 3 squared for the parent is just 9. So the first function is greater than the second function. Our answer is, I wonder if I did that wrong. The first function is greater than the second function. Well, now I'm confused because look, right here. I wonder if we typed in something wrong earlier. When I typed it in, I got h of 3 is 15. 3 squared is 9. 9 plus 6. Okay, so on this function, earlier I added. And I need to tell my class that. I'll tell them later. Alright, so this should be minus 6. And you get 3. And we verified it over here on the table of values, right? Yeah, see, like right here we get 3. And then on the second function, we got 3 and 9. The first function is higher. I think with my first class, I had this as plus 6. And it came out as 15. But that's neither here nor there. Let me delete that. Our function is minus 6. This is our table. And our parent function at 3 is higher than the transformed function at 3. Yes. 9 is greater than 3, so A is the correct answer. Alright, we should be pros at this now, so here we go with number 3. We're going to compare absolute value functions. So compare the parent absolute value function f of x to the function m of x equals 1/2 the absolute value of x plus 4 at f of negative 2 and m of negative 2. Alright, so then we want to know, is f of x greater than m of x? is f of x less than m of x, or is f of x equal to f of x? Alright, let's go to Desmos. Alright, we're going to clear out what's there already. And we're going to type in the parent for the absolute value. I put an equal sign on there. And we're going to key in the child, which is y equals 1/2 times the absolute value of x. Make sure you type it right. Check your work. Make sure what you type is what's on the paper. Alright, it got wider and it shifted up. So I'm going to pull the table for both functions. Put my little keyboard down. Alright, and we're looking for f of -2. Alright, at -2 the first function is 2. So I'm going to write f of -2 equals 2 on my paper. And the second function is m of -2. I get 5. So over here on my paper I wrote f of -2 is 2. M at -2 is 5. The second function is greater. So B is the correct answer. Alright, I hope this helps.